Well, good afternoon. This is Dave Jones with Storm Center Communications and GeoCollaborate. It is November 13th, Wednesday, about 12:45 p.m. on the East Coast. We are here with the tropical update for the All Hazards Consortium, the sensitive information sharing environment, where we share information from private sector liaisons within state emergency operations centers and also the private sector partners that they serve to share information to make sure commerce can happen across state borders and things like power can get restored quickly. So this is the tropics. We are having a little bit more organized system here in the Caribbean. Doesn't it look like that from the GOES satellite imagery? As a matter of fact, I have it in motion, and I also have the sea surface temperature data put underneath of that, so you can see that we still have a warm Caribbean Sea. We talk a lot about ocean heat content in the meteorological world, which basically means how much energy is stored in the ocean in the form of warm temperatures. And the reason why there's so much heat content in the Caribbean is because the heat goes down to depth. It really goes down a significant depth, which means that if a tropical cyclone forms in the Caribbean, it's not really going to do much to upwell colder water to help it weaken. Now, what we have here is a tropical wave. It looks to me like it's got some rotation. It is going to be up to the Hurricane Hunter aircraft that are going to be sent to investigate this system to see if there is a low-level circulation. Looks like we have one at mid-levels, but is there one at low levels? And I want to show you something interesting with the satellite imagery here. First, I'm going to take this full screen, and you'll see over to the east, nothing really happening there. But look at how the warm temperatures really extend beyond the Caribbean into the Atlantic Ocean, and we have a lot of activity going on. This is what we're watching here. This is a potential system, what we would call Sara. If it does get a name, we think it will. It has a 90% chance of developing in the next 2 days. And so we think this is going to be Sara. It's not yet. And we also have a little circulation here. I'm going to turn off the sea surface temperature data so you can just see and focus in on this area, because I want to zoom in on it here a little bit. Look at that swirl down there in the Caribbean. Western Caribbean. We followed this all the way from basically east of Cancun. It's kind of a low-level swirl. This might be the low-level remnants of Rafael. I'll have to trace it back and really see, but there's really not much to it. But it is generating some showers and thunderstorms off of its little bands. Look at that. There was another band of showers and storms that kind of blew up and then dissipated as it was moving towards the land there. But look at this little circulation, and then look at this tail of clouds that's being driven down here. These are more low-level clouds, so it tells you the low-level circulation and air movement is along here in Central America and then down this way. I think that this low pressure is going to take a little turn and follow this area of convergence and where these clouds are moving. Meanwhile, just to the east, this is the more formidable system that we're going to be watching over the next couple of days. This could be Sara, and we do see showers and thunderstorms forming around the area as we put this into motion. You can see kind of a circulation here going on. It's tough to pinpoint where the center of this circulation is, and that's why we have the Hurricane Hunter aircraft. They're going to be checking this out. And look at this little swirl, this surface low pressure. It's kind of looks like it's making a turn to kind of follow this little pathway. I think that's going to happen, but look at these thunderstorms blowing off the top of it. So we are pretty confident that this is going to develop over here into tropical storm and potentially Hurricane Sara. What we are not confident in is where is Sara going to move once it gets in this area here? Is it going to take a turn? And these are some of the options that we're considering here. And let me go into draw mode and see what's going on so I can go into this and draw a couple of arrows. So this is what we could have. We could have Sara that moves in this direction and then kind of curves up and goes through the Yucatan Strait, that would keep the system as a hurricane and make it a pretty big threat to the west coast of Florida. Or another possibility is that it could move in this direction. It could generate and meander around here, and then pause, and then move up over the Yucatan Peninsula, and then up and out this way. If it moves in this direction and interacts with the Yucatan Peninsula, I think we're going to have a much weaker storm, and it could actually be a 1-2 punch. This would be the first punch that could really take away some of its energy. The second punch, believe it or not, I'm looking all the way out to the Aleutian Islands in Alaska. And I'm going to describe to you why I'm looking all the way out there in Alaska. And just one other thing, another model has the system meandering along here, and then just kind of being pushed down a little bit, interacting with Central America, and then coming back up and over the Yucatan, and then coming back up, but in a much weakened fashion. So we have basically 3 potential areas where this system could move. I'm not going to call it Sara yet because it hasn't officially been named Sara. But if it does develop, one option is not touching the land at all, which is the more intense option. Another option is moving a little bit further west and over the Yucatan, which will result in weakening. And the other option is it kind of meandering, touching land, coming back up, being a very weak low pressure, and then up into the Gulf of Mexico if it does make it up that far. So we have a couple of things working in our favor. And I hear you in Florida that you're done with this tropical season. You've already been hit by 3 incredibly strong systems from either storm surge, rain, wind, or the combination of everything, and you do not want another one. We're looking for every option possible that could knock this storm on its heels and have another punch to knock it out. So what I'm going to do here is I will go back over. I'm going to clear these drawings. I'm going to go over to the west coast. And this is the GOES West satellite. Thank goodness we have a GOES West satellite over 135 degrees west and the equator, so we can monitor what's going on in the North Pacific and watch these storms. Look at this incredible storm that's moving towards the Aleutian Islands here. This is a very intense cyclone. It has a big trough of low pressure associated with it. And you can see if I move a little bit further to the south, look at this. This is an atmospheric river. I'm looking at the high level moisture in the atmosphere. And look at this atmospheric river that's funneling moisture right into California. And it's creating some rain showers and some high elevation snows. It doesn't look like it's going to be a major atmospheric river, but it will impact the coastal areas here with some rain and high elevation snow. You can see this sort of low pressure trough here, cold air behind it. It's how we can read satellite imagery, and then that's going to push in. But this next low pressure system could be the one that develops a trough that digs down into the southern part of the U.S., forms a low pressure system that intensifies rapidly over here, south of the Four Corners area, actually over northern Mexico, develops into a big storm that moves over the central part of the country in time enough to rip the shreds out of what could be Sara when it develops. Meteorology is a complex science, and we're watching all sorts of things that could happen. And look at this area of dry air that's pushing through Texas right now from the GOES West satellite. We can see it from the GOES East as well, but I have 2 different parameters going on. So let me show you. I'll go back to the tropics. I'll go to the north just a little bit. Whoops, I still have drawing turned on. Let me turn that off and go to the north a little bit because I showed you that dry air moving into Texas. Here it is. It's a frontal system, and we have strong southerly winds ahead of it that are causing showers and heavy thunderstorms. Some of them are severe, as a matter of fact, here in Louisiana. You see these big clouds, these bubbly clouds? They are thunderstorms. And look at this area just south of Shreveport. I'm going to show you the radar data and what that looks like. Here it is. These are those showers and thunderstorms moving up into central Louisiana here. I'll zoom in just a little bit more. And you can see these moving ashore. This is a tornado warning that was on one of the thunderstorms, and there could be other possible water spouts and tornadoes moving up towards Houma, Louisiana. And here is New Orleans in this area right here. So later on today, these storms could impact New Orleans. They're already creating flooding in parts of Louisiana by covering roads with quite a bit of moisture. So I'm going to go back now, though, to the satellite imagery. I just wanted to show you what's falling out of these clouds here right now at 12:56 in the afternoon here on the East Coast. And look at this boundary down to the south, this boundary where these showers and thunderstorms are funneling in, developing along this boundary and moving up into Louisiana. So there's a good chance of some potential flooding in Louisiana and Mississippi during the day today. So back down to our main event here. It certainly does look like we have some circulation, and we do have some very interesting low-level dynamics going on. So I'm going to go over to GeoCollaborate because I want to show you the National Hurricane Center's area of development that they're watching very closely. We're all watching this very closely. This is this red area. The X is now in the expected development area. We could see that rotation around the satellite imagery. And I think we're going to see a tropical depression here in the next 24 hours. That's what I think as the plane will come down and investigate this system. We have a buoy down here as well. And that buoy is showing falling pressure, a water temperature of 86 degrees. No worries about the elements of sea surface temperature and warmth being available for this system to develop. We also have the moisture, and down here in the Caribbean, we don't have much shear. But what we're hoping is that system out west, I'll get to that in just a moment again, will lead to the development of a low and a strong low in the central part of the country that could be the second punch. That 1-2 punch could be moving over the Yucatan. The second punch could be that strong wind at 5,000 feet to come in and just tear the shreds out of this storm. That is a possibility. These are all real-time observations that we see from this buoy here and this one over here. Water temperature 85 degrees. There we go. Air temperature of 83. Pressure falling as well. So this is a broad area of low pressure that's approaching in this tropical wave. So we have a lot of action, and the next 24 to 48 hours is really going to tell a tale of seeing this develop into likely a tropical storm, potentially a hurricane, and then what? That's the big question. Does it move over land? Does it move through the Yucatan Channel? If it moves through the Yucatan Channel, it might get a head start on that strong cold front that's forecast to develop and move through next week. Numerical weather prediction, that's why we invest in numerical weather prediction models. Scientists working hard at NOAA, NASA, at the Hurricane Research Division, Atlantic Oceanographic Marine Lab, all working hard to make sure that we're able to model the oceans and the atmosphere and how they couple together and work to either strengthen tropical systems or knock them out. So needless to say, we have a lot of wind activity along Florida. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you what the winds look like at the surface. And this is the winds over the last, I'd say, over the last 6 hours or so. Let me show you that. Here we go. Look at these winds. This is winds at the surface. So here is that circulation right here for the tropical depression, or really not tropical depression yet. It's really a tropical wave. You have to wait officially for it to be called a depression from the National Hurricane Center. But the model, these are winds from the Global Forecast System model, showing some sort of broad circulation here. But look at to the north, these strong winds over the Atlantic. And look what they're doing. They're coming in and hitting the east coast of Florida again. Small craft advisories we have in effect. Here's GeoCollaborate, small craft advisories. We have coastal flood advisories. We still have flood warnings from Milton's rains in parts of Florida. This is the Withlacoochee River, and it's receding, but it's still not below flood stage. Some people are still out of their houses, haven't been able to get back for weeks. And so on the east coast of Florida and the west coast of Florida, we have a lot of wind going on. Mariners, not recommended that you go out to do any fishing. I have a lot of these things turned on. What are they? Well, these are buoys that are supported by NOAA and their university partners. So we can monitor the winds here, gusting to 21 easterly winds. Also on the east coast, look at some of these winds, gusting to 23 knots. 19 knot winds, that's pretty strong. Going on here. So that's creating a lot of coastal impacts here. Let me move over to this buoy. Look at this. Winds gusting to 25 knots. That is about almost 30 miles per hour here. And look at some of the winds out here in the Atlantic, gusting to 23 knots. Pressure's falling there out of that one. Here are some global drifter buoys. We can see the sea surface temperature of 79.7 and the barometric pressure. So GeoCollaborate is really monitoring a lot of this. Look how busy it looks with a lot of these ocean observations. Some of these aren't reporting. They're oil rigs. Some of them turn on, some of them turn off at will because they want to see certain data coming out. But I'm going to turn off and make it less crowded. I'll turn off those drifters. By the way, over here, these drifters are still in the Gulf of Mexico, and I'm sure that these observations of wave height will be turned on should this system make it into the Gulf of Mexico as a tropical storm or Hurricane Sara. So let me get into the forecast and show you what I think is going to go on and what the GFS model is showing as well. So let's go over to that and I'll show you. So this is the initialized model at 12Z this morning. It's about 7 o'clock this morning, East Coast time. And I want to show you a couple of the players. Okay, so I have a different grid projection turned on so you can see more of what's happening. Here's the United States. Here's Mexico and Central America. Here is the tropical wave that's showing up in the models right now. So a lot of rain and some wind. That'll be impacting also perhaps Jamaica this afternoon through the next several days, not as a hurricane, but just as some storminess that's gathering together. Right now, we see that increasing a little bit, particularly to the south of Jamaica. But then here is that storm all the way up approaching the Aleutian Islands. Remember, I showed that one to you. And that was approaching. I can show you that on the satellite imagery here. Let's go out a little bit further to the west. Here it is. So here is that storm that I'm looking at on the model right here, that swirly thing. That's a pretty strong low pressure system headed up into Alaska, and then it's going to dive down in the jet stream. So that is very interesting indeed. So what I'm going to do is go back here to the model and put it into motion. Watch a couple of these players at work. I'll advance this a little bit. And now we're Thursday morning. Tomorrow morning, we have a low pressure system showing up in the models in the Caribbean. So this could be the tropical depression. It could be a tropical storm in the next 24 hours. I think it has a chance of becoming a tropical storm pretty quickly once it gets that circulation together. Here's that low pressure system. Here's still remnant moisture from Raphael that's streaming up into the system as well. So some chance of some shower storms and some welcome rains. A lot of drought going on in the eastern part of the U.S. Now I'll continue this moving forward. Notice that low pressure system moving into Alaska. Here it is. That's the low pressure system right here. And you can just keep an eye on it. I'm going to change parameters here too, so you can see it a little bit more easily. But now by Friday night, we have, looks like a tropical storm or a hurricane. I'm going to take it forward in time. It's kind of hovering around there, but look, it interacts with the Yucatan and almost falls apart. It really doesn't get its act together. And this is the solution we're really hoping for, so it doesn't recover too much from hitting the Yucatan. Look at this. As I get on into Tuesday morning, it's just a rainstorm. Just a rainstorm. And here comes this low barreling down out of the Pacific Ocean towards parts of the Pacific Northwest. And I'll put this into motion a little bit more so we can see this. And what we have here is this low pressure system. I've jumped ahead a little bit further. Sorry about that. This is a low pressure system that develops in the Midwest. And look at this cold front stretching down with very cold air. This is cold. And it's just rushing down into the Gulf of Mexico. And it's trying to rip apart this tropical system. And it just really impacts Florida as a heavy rainstorm. The heavy rainstorm. And then Florida cools off with some decent, less humid air. And all you've had is a rainstorm. So what I've loaded here is the 700 millibar to 300 millibar relative humidity. What does that mean? Well, I'm basically looking at a section of the atmosphere from about 8 to 10,000 feet all the way up to about 25,000 feet. So I'm looking at that section of the atmosphere and where the dry air is and where the moisture is. And so right now down here, let me just orient you. Here's Florida. Here's Florida. Here's the Outer Banks of North Carolina. Here's Mexico right here. And so here is the Caribbean. This is Cuba right here. This is the tropical area that we're watching here for development. This is what could become Sara. And so as I put this in motion, I want to show you what happens. As Sara comes together and develops, we have a tropical system here, right about there. And as it develops, look at this high pressure system with dry air pushing. So that's keeping the storm down here in the Caribbean for a little bit. And then as I advance this, you'll see it pushes it down just slightly. And then the high pressure system becomes strong enough here that it forces the storm into the Yucatan. And so this is what we're hoping for, that this high pressure stays strong enough. Notice this low pressure system developing in the Midwest, which is strengthening rapidly and getting a lot of oomph behind it. I'll take this further ahead. Then you see that the moisture punches through into the Gulf of Mexico and the moisture heads towards Florida, but it's just a stretched out low pressure system. That is what we want. And then look at this intense low up by the Great Lakes, forcing a lot of air down from the northwest, pushing this dry air in, and it really just wants to rip apart this tropical system. And it is successful in this model run. And then what we have is just a rainstorm for South Florida as opposed to a tropical storm or a hurricane. So that is what we're hoping. I'm going to show you the 2024 names. If it does develop, it would be Sara, whether it be a tropical storm or a hurricane. It looks like it could meander around the Caribbean for a little while and then really get torn apart if it does hit the land. If it hits the Yucatan Peninsula and interacts with that land, it may not have enough of its momentum to take it through, and the atmospheric conditions will be less favorable that it could fall apart. So we have those three scenarios. And I would recommend, if you're in Florida, to pay very close attention. This is one model run here, and that is something that we're watching, and we're watching closely. This model run is somewhat consistent to the model run before it, so we're thankful. We are seeing other models like the European model and some other models trying to hint at maybe not being as strong in the Gulf of Mexico. Some still are. So we're going to be watching very closely this development here of what could become Sara. Here is Jamaica right here, so you can see some showers and storms popping up because of the circulation. So later on today into tonight, there could be some of these storms that rotate around and develop over Jamaica. But in some places, it's a beautiful day. So that's the tropical update. I'm Dave Jones with Storm Center Communications and GeoCollaborate. We have our eyes from multiple satellites, models focusing on this storm, what could be a tropical storm or Hurricane Sara, and we will keep you posted. We'll have another update during the day tomorrow, probably around noon or 1 o'clock. Till then, thanks for watching this update. It's for the All Hazards Consortium. We'll be uploading it to the SISE hub and also sharing it out through the Signal app. So thanks again for watching, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow. Take care of yourself, and please watch out for your neighbors. They really do appreciate it. Have a good day.